subject which I would like to speak about today is a pasuk in the Torah, and there are two different answers that are given to this difficulty. Kadosh Baruch Hu comes to Yaakov Avinu, and he tells him, okay, it's time to leave and to go home. And he has this long dream about this. And what does he do afterwards? So the Torah tells us as follows. Here we go. Let's read the pasuk. Anochi akel be'iskel asher mashachta shel matero. As Baruch Hu identifies who's speaking to him. Asher nadarta li sham neder. Ata kum tzei min haaretz hazos. A clear directive. Leave. V'shuv al eretz moladatecha. That's what he says. And Yaakov tells this to Rachel and Leah. This should have been a forewarning of what's about to happen. This is what he tells them. Vatan Rachel v'Leah v'tamarnalei. And they respond, Ha'od yeshanu chelik v'nachal v'eis avinu. We have any personal reason to stay over here. Halo nechrois nechshav lanu ki mochranu. He sold us like chattel. V'yochol gamochos kaspeinu. Stole our money. Ki kol ha'oisha asher hitzil Hashem me'avinu lanu hu l'vanenu. It's all ours. Va'ata, in summation of all that which you just said now, listen to this religiosity. Kol asher amar Elokim elecha aseh. Therefore, listen to God. Now, I'm a little bit embarrassed that this is the way my Helig and Bobby should talk. You know, let's listen to Hashem because I think he's right. Sounds to me that they're lacking basic betachon, amun, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What kind of conversation is this? In other words, really, did Yaakov come to ask them their opinion? And really, is this the opinion that they should have been offering? Very strange interaction. And nobody seems to be taken to task for this interaction. It seems that everybody did what they're supposed to do. So what's going on? Okay, very simple question. And really this, part of this is repeated again. The same kind of a thing happens with Yosef and Potiphar. Eshes Potiphar. Eshes Potiphar would like him to sin with her. And he says, you know, my master, he put me in charge of this house, and he trusts me. I don't think that's the right thing to do. And also, it's an Aveira. Nice little asterisk. It's also an Aveira. It's also an Aveira. That's where it starts, and that's where it ends. Okay? So the same response that Rachel and Leah had to Yaakov, we find a similar response that Yosef has to Eshes Potiphar. This needs explanation. And why is there any dialogue? If Yaakov was told about Kadosh Baruch Hu leave, he should wake up in the morning and say, we're out of here. And his wife says, why? You just say, I had a bad dream. Just, whatever. Why? This is not up for discussion. What's going on? So there are two different ways of attacking this subject, and they're very, very different. Both are true in their proper place. I'll just use this as an example. I had the schus of sitting by Moshe Halberstam for probably like 10 years, and he would be asked all kinds of shilas on all kinds of subjects. And in the beginning, when he used to do something, I thought he was just trying to be polite. He would say, it's a very difficult question. He would turn to me and say, Baruch, what do you think? My opinion is not valid as an opinion in his presence. He knows that, and I know that. So why is he asking me? So the answer to the question could be one of many, and many times is all of them. One is, he's teaching me to take responsibility. You have this kind of question, what do you think? It's part of the shimush. And sometimes, many times he would say, it's a difficult question. I have to have somebody else to shoulder the burden of responsibility with. Do you agree? And it's a real question. And he really wants my opinion. And he had certain klolim, certain kinds of questions. Say, yeah, I have to have 3 people that paskin questions every single day to agree with me in order to be matter this. So it's an ongoing thing. So there are many reasons why such a thing would be done. But it also was a derech eretz. You have somebody over here who is part of what's going on. Ask his opinion. How much are you going to take his opinion into account? Is another question. In other words, I'm taking this right now to a very practical place, and it's very misubach. Parents have a dilemma of what to do on vacation. So they ask their children, and hear what their children say, and then the parents do what they want. I don't know if I've ever had such an experience happen. And the kids are miffed. So why do you ask our opinion? What happened? Bradley, why are you looking at me like that? It sounds like a strange subject. Mm-hmm. Okay? What happened? What happened? So the answer is that the parents knew in the beginning it's their decision, and the kids ultimately will follow whatever, blah, 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 so to speak. But yes, they do want to know their opinion. Or they also want to be incorporated sometimes in decision-making. Now, what happens is sometimes the kids think, that we are equal partners in the administration. That's a dangerous Pandora's box, which if you possibly shouldn't do this if that's what's going to happen. But it's an expression of endearment to your children that you're interested in what their opinion is. And when your kids say to you, so why do you ask our opinion and you did otherwise? You say, your answer to them is as follows. These are what you say. We didn't do otherwise. We took it into account. It was relevant. That doesn't mean that that's the final decision. Right? That's what you have to tell them. No, it's just like you and your wife, you'll have a disagreement where to go on vacation. And you'll finally decide one way. Doesn't mean the other person's opinion is irrelevant. So there are many things that could happen. Okay? I didn't say people should do this. I'm just saying that there's such a mahalach and there's a purpose. This exercise brings to a certain result, which can be a very positive result if it's done properly. If it's done improperly, you're better off not doing it. But that's a concept. So here we have the similar kind of thing, according to some. He's going. His wife and children are chopped liver. They're people. They have feelings. Things should be explained to them. Does that mean that you're asking their opinion? No. It means you're recognizing the human element of who they are. Sometimes you're asking an opinion. Sometimes you're informing them of that which is going to happen on a derech eretz level. Because Baruch Hu didn't say, don't ask. Now, I'm going to leave this as a question without going there 100%. Look where this goes. HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Moshe Rabbeinu, go to Mitzrayim and take out Klal Yisrael from Mitzrayim? I guess if we were in last night's Mishmar, someone would raise their hand and say, Rabbi Zachariash, this is a Pekuach Nefesh question, right? That's what Tumah would ask me. And I say, what kind of question? Of course it is, right? They put babies into the walls, right? We know what was going on over there. It's real Pekuach Nefesh. She says, so why is he worried about his shvuah that he made to his father-in-law that he's not going to leave without telling him? And not only that, there was a Kadosh Baruch Hu who told him to do it. Why is Moshe Rabbeinu caught up? Mamish, like it's not even caught up in details. These details are obsolete, right? And yet you find Moshe Rabbeinu can't be better than that. No, because Baruch Hu tells you directly to do this, and there he is off to Yisrael, the Kumul Avodah Zarah, asking him permission to go. Fascinating. So there's an aspect of just getting too involved with a simple answer to this question. There's an aspect of derech eretz, whether or not you're going to listen, not going to listen. He's a person. He's your father-in-law. Respect. Now you want to know who demanded this respect? Lavan, remember him? You're my son-in-law, and you leave without saying goodbye? Why did this week's parsha? Right? Is it a taina? Is it not a taina? Again, this is also a discussed issue. But the concept, Lavan didn't make up this idea. So sometimes we're asking because we want to inform. Sometimes you also want to get the person on board. Now, the question which is asked by the Meshech Chochmah and the Netziv is a fascinating question. Let's say I'm willing to stomach the parsha that we have over here. Okay? So they say that, our father really messed us up. He doesn't care about us. And therefore, we don't have to return hate with love. Let's say. Okay? Say it in short. That's what they said. And not only that, it's an Avera. Which one should be said first? Should first you say the more important thing, and then say the less important thing? You should say the less important thing and then the more important thing. How would you order this statement? Now, imagine you are Yosef HaTzadik, and you want to tell Eishes Potifar, I'm not interested. What would be the order of the way that you expressed your feeling? What? So why isn't that what they did? Okay? And the answer to the question is, it's a fantastic answer. When I say it's fantastic, it means this is a tool. I'm not right now telling you something. I'm bequeathing you a tool. Why does Avodas Hashem have to be hard if it could be easy? So what we're taught, both of these Gedolei Yisrael were taught, is that we should be makarev the mitzvah el haseichel. This is a build-up. We don't say, okay, I'm doing it by gunpoint. Say, you don't really make sense. I'm in this. I believe in this. It's the right thing to do. I'm sure that Rachel and Leah went to many shmusim of all my mashkichim, and they would say, no matter what, you have to l'shasayiv mitzri ki gera yisa ba'artzai. They were brought up by their father. Where's the hakaras hatov? They also had an aspect in there. We just read it. We don't put ourselves in that situation. How are they supposed to act? Do you think it was easy for them to say what they said? This was a cognizant decision, not an emotional decision. It was made out of intellectual understanding, right? So they had to build it up to do it with a smile. Now, not everything that we do with a smile. Sometimes we believe it more, sometimes we believe it less. So I'm just going to use for you an example. A person makes a bracha on bad news, dayan ha'emes. What is that expression that you're saying? Emes is something which sometimes is painful to swallow. Emes is not pretty. Emes is absolute. So we understand in the world of absolutes, this is right. Eventually, when Mashiach will come, we will say, Atayv HaMeitiv, even on the bad news, because we'll have the whole picture. You know, the guy who got into a car crash and he has complaints to HaKadosh Baruch Hu because now he missed his flight and that plane blew up in the air. Okay? So when he says the Dayan Emes on his car being destroyed, he should really be making a Taiva Meitiv, right? In other words, you didn't see the whole picture. So eventually we'll be able to see the whole picture. We'll understand it differently. Anyways, this is how these Mefarshim explain. Their response was a build-up to have Avodas Hashem be easier for them to do. And this is also an Avodah. The danger of this Avodah, I would just like to make a side sentence, is not that that's the way Avodas Hashem demands that you be with the program. And people who exercise being with the program, when it doesn't work out the way that they want, so then they're out of there. Right? So there's a danger. No, it's true, it's important, and a person should try to make sense out of it. But ultimately, that's not the reason why we do it. The reason why we do it is because Hashem said. In my opinion, the place where this is expressed the clearest is something everybody knows. And after I tell this to you, because I didn't tell you this raya beforehand, so I told you this in the beginning, I wouldn't have much to have said till now. Okay? But I believe it'll still have a greater impact on you. HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Klal Yisrael, would you like to receive the Torah? And they say, for sure. HaKadosh says, okay. And he takes out his gun and says, do you want to take the Torah or not? Kaf aleim hakigiyas. Understand? We just said we're willing to do it. So why is HaKadosh Baruch Hu threatening us with killing us if we don't accept the Torah? We said we're willing to do it. What's the answer to the question? If I accepted the Torah because I want to do it, so who am I listening to? Myself. So you didn't accept the Torah. You still are center stage in your decision making of what you do and what you don't do. That is not an Eved of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. An Eved of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is a person who is forced, coerced, doesn't have an opinion. He's the Eved of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Just like an Eved doesn't have any possessions, doesn't have any opinions, is not under administration, so too, we also are like that. So we accept the Torah only under Kaf aleim hakiyas conditions. But Avada, it's taken into account that we wanted to do it. But that's only as Mr. Frum would call it, a fine-tuning details. It's not the subject. The subject is we accept the Torah because HaKadosh Baruch Hu told us to accept the Torah. And we're good soldiers. We do what we're supposed to do. The end. Now, after we know that, it's always nice to do it. I'll just like use this example. I remember as a kid, for some reason, I was just like all other kids. I didn't want to wear a coat or a sweater, right?
I can understand that.
What?
I can understand that.
Forget about a jacket or even sleeves, okay? Some people have issues with those things, okay? So my mother would say, wear a coat. And I would say, why? So she know what she would say? Because I said so. And then I'll probably make some kind of a face, you know. I don't know if you've ever heard of kids do this thing, make some kind of face. And she said, it's probably going to be raining in an hour. Okay, I'll take a coat. Okay, this is a familiar scenario. So why did I take a coat? Because my mother told me. If you would ask me, it may rain in a half hour, do you want to take a coat? I'd say no. No. Now, Seichel perhaps would have said, it's going to rain in a half hour and you should take a coat. I'm a kid. Mother, sure. You know what I mean? Right now, I don't want to take a coat. That's the end. But my mother told me, so I take a coat. How much does it help that instead of the news, it's going to rain? Not much. It makes the pill a little bit easier to swallow. Okay? Now, what would happen, just move the scenario a different way. Tomorrow, I would pick up the newspaper, and after reading the sports page, doing the crossword puzzle, and the funnies, like all important, the 3 mitzvahs gedolos that exist in America. After doing that, I glanced at the weather, thunderstorms. And then my mother says, I'm about to leave, but says, you want to put on a coat? I say, okay. Same mother, same weather prediction. What happened? What happened? It was the same me. I didn't steig so much in the last 24 hours, right? So what happened? The way it was introduced in a way that wasn't alien to you. So this is called subversive advertising. That's it, there's a connection. If I were to say, and this is not I'm stealing this from somewhere else. If I were to say, do you want to be a macho guy and drive off into the sunset? You'd say, what's with you? Right? That wouldn't get you to smoke Marlboro. It's not going to happen. But you see the macho guy driving off into the sunset, that works. Why? Because indirect is better than direct. That's all. This is the side of the... They didn't say smoke Marlboro. They just had Mr. Macho Guy driving off into the sunset with a cigarette. And you say to yourself, not somebody says to you, I want to be like him. Hashem Yerachem. Anyways, but really, do you really want to be chasing cattle your whole life? Anyways, I guess it beats traffic. But the bottom line is that we are affected even by things which we understand differently when it's expressed to us differently. So the Gedolim tell us, you should be makarev avodas Hashem el haseichel. But cholila should never be at the expense that we have to understand it. That just makes it easier. And it's important to make it easier because we try to have less nisayon in life than more nisayon in life. If we're always going to do everything because that's what we're told, that's also not a good mahalach. On the other side, we have to understand that at the end of the day, we do things because we're told to do them. We have to have that straight. That's the first thing. Another thing is, again, we have to understand that we're not robots, we're people, and therefore people work with understanding. So just like you inform your wife and family why we're picking up and moving, so too you have to inform yourself that this makes sense, that's what you're doing. Now, in the last piece of this, which is fascinating, and this is what I would call, if I were in the Musar mood, we are right now moving to Slabotka. I'm going to share with you Dvar Torah of mine, which I said, and then afterwards I found out that Rav Shach said the same thing, he just said it better. I will just say, even though Rav Shach said it better, I like my expressing it better than his, but he still said it better. David HaMelech was an Erlich Jew. David HaMelech retained a private Navi, Nasan HaNavi. If Nasan HaNavi would tell him to do something, David HaMelech would do it. Okay. Nasan HaNavi goes to Bathsheba, and says that there's political muscling going on. David HaMelech is winding down. People want to know who's going to take over for Sinwar. So who's going to take over after David HaMelech dies? Go to David HaMelech and have him make a public statement. And when you're doing this, in the middle of your conversation, I'm going to come in. V'ani emala es dvorecha. I will embellish, I will finish off that what you're saying, and we'll nail him to make a statement. Okay? Don't know. Nasan Avi should have skipped Bathsheba, go to David HaMelech, and say, make a statement. Who needs Bathsheba? What's she doing here? Just need a longer Haftarah? What's the point? What's the point? This is a question I had. And if it's Pasha to me, I don't would have listened, so what's the point? So the answer to the question is as follows. Your mother tells you to do something, so you do it. Your father tells you to do something, so you do it. Your wife tells you to do something, so you do it. The same thing. But depending on the relationship of who the person who's telling you has with you, you will execute it differently. It'll be done. In other words, if your wife says, get supper, it'll look like one thing. If your father says, get supper, it'll look like something else. If your mother says, get something, it'll look like a third thing, right? I understand. They all said the exact same thing. But I'm just using that as a very extreme, because your relationship with those people will automatically include it in that asking, and the product will be a different product. HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Yaakov Avinu, pick up and move on. How that should be done was not said by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That was left open. This is not my Nakuda. So here there was a place where Yaakov Avinu had a right to have creativity. Should he run away? Should he tell him? You know, how is this supposed to happen? That was left, HaKadosh Baruch Hu left that up to Yaakov to make that decision. Yaakov took his shutzit in life into that decision making. And they made it clear, we don't want to negotiate. We want to leave chad stadi. So there was even a place for discussion amongst them to create the venue of how it's going to be executed. So there was room for him to have a discussion with them, and their response was about their position on how it should be executed. So we learned three totally different approaches to this parsha, and I don't think there's any steer between them. All the lessons that we learned, I believe, are true, and you have to know, as always, we have to know how to react. I would just close this thought with something that I heard a friend of mine once went to ask Rav Shachan Eitzad something. I don't remember what the question was, but it was a good question. And Rav Shach started pacing around the room. And he said, my uncle, Rabbi Sir Zalman, would say to do like this. And then he said, the Briskerov would say to do like this. Something else. Chazon Ish would say do like this. And Rav Chaim Ozer went through all of his Rabbeim. How would they respond in that situation? And they took a deep breath. They said, I'm telling you, do X. So all of those opinions were present, relevant to his decision-making, though I don't recall who he did like. But they weren't not the negea. So when we have things that we do, there's a lot of back office that's really there. So we have to know that when we're told to do it, we're told to do it. And I'm just going to use this as an example, which to me is a mind-boggling thing. I'm going to leave this with a question. I know Eid Mipi Eid, it's not so far away, from the Chazon Ish. Eid Mipi Eid on the Chofetz Chaim. Neither of them davened any different on Yom Naroyim than they did the rest of the year. There was no such thing as a Yom Naroyim davening. No such thing as an Elul davening. You know what that says? That by then every day was Elul, every day was Yom Kippur. Some people would say, obviously, there's no such thing as Elul, no such thing as Yom Kippur, right? No, you have to understand who they are, what they are, where they are, in order to learn from that which they're saying. And you have to know what the relevance is. But this idea, I think, is negeya in all of our interpersonal relationships, even though we know we're going to have to do something. How do we tell someone? You have to fire a employee. How do you tell him? Get somebody else to tell him. How do you tell him? You're right now stripping somebody of their lifeline, their support. Find a way to make him leave with dignity. Don't send him an email. You have to do it. It's your job. It's not enough to be makayim what your job is. You're given the job to do it properly. And this is what's called negotiations in politics. I'll just end off. I told you my approach, the answer of Nasser al-Navi and David HaMelech. Roshach, when he was asked this question, Roshach says, Mikan Raya, there's such a thing as kosher politics. This is called politicking. That's exactly what happened, right? In other words, there's a way to do it, a way to apply pressure, a way to get the results exactly the way you want it. Otherwise, you're just going to slam him, right? So there's some people that are good negotiators, some people that are bad negotiators. Everybody has their koyach. But a person has to understand that even when you're told something which sounds very square, there's still room for it to be round. And that's the ikar point that we're saying over here. You're told that's what to do. That doesn't mean do it rosh bakir. It means you have to figure out how can I use this in a way to elevate myself in my avodas Hashem, or elevate the people around me, or to get people to do things with a bigger smile. Okay.